are live. Thank you for joining everybody. I'm here with Valerie Braun, Senior Director of Technology for Skillstorm. Thanks for joining us, Valerie.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hey, before we get started, for anybody joining in, drop in the comments where you're coming in from. We'd love to hear from you and hear the reach of this program. Now, along the way, I'd also like to say that Valerie is also a military spouse, I guess Air Force military spouse, and she runs the Vet Tech and SkillBridge programs for Skillstorm. So there's a huge foundation and understanding of our community and what it takes to build a community or to build a career into tech. Would that be a solid thing to say, Valerie?
Absolutely. Yeah. So just with my own experience. And the SkillBridge programs at Skillstorm for our training department. Absolutely.
Awesome. I lost you there for a quick second.
Oh no. Hopefully my internet stays good throughout the presentation.
We'll make it work. So I guess the question is, what I want people to understand from this is not just what you do at Skillstorm. I'd like them to hear how you got to this role, because you didn't do tech your whole life, right?
Correct. Yeah, definitely not tech.
So let's hear your story. So I guess, can you share with us how you got from milspouse PCSing, needing to find a new career, to, I guess, about 6 years later, being a senior director of technology and building programs for other service members and veterans to get a career in tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So my bachelor's degree was actually in business management and economics from Northern Arizona University, if you're familiar. And so my first career was actually for Enterprise Holdings. I started off in the management track and the rental branches, if you're familiar. And then from there, I went to work at the corporate offices in bad debt consolidation and then employee development and risk management. So I really enjoyed that. But when we moved to Germany with one of my husband's station assignments, I wasn't able to find a job that was willing to take me on. And many military spouses can probably relate to that. It can be really difficult to get your foot in the door, especially in a GS role, if you don't already know the system well. So I had somebody take a chance on me and offer me to do a contracting job for Leidos if I was able to pass my CompTIA Security Plus examination. So I did that, started working for Leidos, eventually worked. Yeah.
So I did that.
So I passed that.
I don't want to like overlook that accomplishment, because what I didn't hear before was any tech experience prior to
there was none. No, there was none.
So challenge accepted. How did you, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get through the training and earn the exam and pass the exam? How long did it take? Like, what was involved?
Yeah, it took me about 6 months. And so for somebody brand new to tech, I was proud of that timeline, but it was truly just a lot of late nights, hard studying. So what I ended up doing was I purchased some pretty good textbooks on it and just took I basically rewrote the book with my notes. And then when I went to go pass, I was really proud. I ended up like a 90% when I passed it, but it was definitely no easy feat. That was a very hard start to start off with.
Yeah, I wanted to key in on that for a second. And I also like to key on that because that's milspouse power, right? Challenge accepted, Sec Plus with no prior IT or cyber experience. Yeah, I can do that. Get a textbook and let me just text. So I love that story, but I think that's going to bleed into like later how everything else went. So,
okay, so absolutely.
You earned your exam and you started at Leidos doing...
I was working in system software support, so like CHCS, Alta. A lot of people would be familiar with that before it transitioned to Genesys. So did that, and then did server room support, so tape backups, things like that. A lot of hardware and some software administration. And then from there, transitioned to GS.
Was that in Germany, or were you doing that remotely?
So that was at Launchtool. If you're familiar with the Army base and the hospital there, it was all providing support to the providers and the individuals that were in that healthcare system.
All right, I love it. Okay, so then you got a GS role.
Yeah, so then I worked in customer support there. So I worked specifically with the network administration. So I was the one that was giving everybody NIPR access to be able to do their jobs effectively with the internet.
Okay, awesome. And that's still in Germany.
Yes, still in Germany. Yep, still at Launchtool. So got very familiar with Launchtool. It was a great hospital to be a part of. But again, with being resilient, we PCS'd to Florida. My husband's a WISO, so he was doing training out at NAS Pensacola. And at the time, they had a hiring freeze. So even though I was GS, I was unable to transfer. And then throughout that, actually found Skillstorm and jumped into a training program and then was hired as a trainer. So kind of just try to be as resilient as possible. And then through that, my technical knowledge has just grown so much over time. So I started off some cybersecurity with Skillstorm, then
Mhm.
got into cloud computing and DevOps, and then project management, and it just kept growing from there. So I'm at, I think, 10 or 12 certifications, something like that at this point. So a lot.
I love it. I love it. And your initial experience kind of bouncing around between those different roles
Mhm.
and the different systems probably set you up for success because it gave you a wide range of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned one of my things is project management. We always talk about T-shaped individuals or generalists, right? And they can do a lot in many different fields as opposed to a specialist or an I-shaped individual. So that's something I'm passionate about is having a wealth of knowledge and be able to be impacting my team as much as possible.
Awesome. So you went through that initial training.
Mhm.
Like, how hard was that training? Was the first training you went with Skillstorm?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. So I started off in a cyber batch that was very fast paced. That was what we call our Tech Force by Design program. And then from there, I went into a vet tech program where I was working as a teaching assistant or training assistant. And that was a bit of a slower pace. It's a longer duration, it's 16 weeks,
Mhm,
but it was a totally different tech field. So it was still challenging in its own
mhm.
way.
And then after that, you moved into a training role.
Yeah, so I was leading my own programs. So the program I've had the most impact in is a vet tech AWS DevOps program. So I mentioned it's a 16-week program. We go through things like networking and Linux and tools like Ansible and Kubernetes. And it's really exciting. There's such a breadth of what we cover there. And then from there, I got into leadership. And so now I get to manage a team that's running these trainings and develop curriculums and keep growing with the company.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so now let's talk about, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
when we talk about these programs. I mean, I want to get into all the different certs you earned, but it started. You actually lit up when you started naming those tools, and I realized I'm probably not going to understand most of them. But when we talk about your role in developing these curricula, I got it right. Um, how does that work? Like how do you go about, because each one is tailored to
Mhm.
a specific job, am I right?
Yes. So what we do is we custom build these curriculums. So with Tech Force by Design, especially, they're custom built to fill what we call technical debt at these clients. So what we do is we keep a very strong eye on industry trends and market trends to identify, what's new and interesting to companies, might they be experiencing this technical debt or lacking resources. And then we custom build these curriculums to give people the absolute most skill sets possible to make them valuable to a client. So with vet tech, when they come in, we experience people to have a wide range of abilities. And then we want to make sure that we're developing them, for example, to be a DevOps engineer and be able to deploy to a client and work day one.
Awesome. So what is a DevOps engineer?
So a DevOps engineer is going to work with several different automation tools. So things like Ansible, which is a configuration management tool, containerization, CI/CD pipelines, etc. So they use this automation to then take that into work examples and build infrastructure as code and deploy out to environments to make things faster and more efficient and all of that.
Can you break that down a little a little easier? Like I feel like I almost get it. So like
Yeah.
at its basic level, if
Mhm.
I get it that if I go through your program, I'm going to learn all these things. When I get to the client at like the ninth grade level, what am I doing?
Yeah, so a very simple example, we have something called infrastructure as code. And so
Mhm,
what you can do is you can have these lines of text that will, for
mhm.
example, deploy what's called a virtual machine. And
Okay.
by taking that code, you can run a command like a Terraform apply if you're using Terraform and launch and have a VM deployed. And it just makes it a very easy process to automate and have things launched out, and you could scale it very easily and manage it.
Oh, so these are machines that people are using, virtual machines that people are using? Like,
Yeah,
I guess I'm missing the basics on this one. This is just for me,
yeah,
by the way, not anybody else out there. You probably all get it, but I
yeah.
mean, like, so I guess AWS is the cloud, right, program for a lot of companies, and so the people you're deploying for DevOps are managing cloud utilization for the company, like how the individual employees interact with it. Does that make sense?
So essentially, what they do is they craft solutions for companies. So, for example, let's say you want to have a new website hosted or an application. These would be the individuals that would be going to work and build that application for you and then monitor it and make changes and such and trying to make it a very efficient process. So, a VM is something that can be used in so many different contexts, but there's a lot that they can do with capabilities. So cloud computing, AWS is one of the platforms, but there's many others, but
Mhm.
AWS is definitely one that we use a lot.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I think we have something similar with Salesforce at my company, where like if we need to build a certain report or a certain capability, or we need to like um, do a new website or whatever, all of our stuff has
Mhm.
been on Salesforce. So we have somebody come in and kind of develop that
And
and build
support
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Salesforce developer is a little bit different than a DevOps engineer, but still a very, very valuable role. And it's actually one that we do have programs for as well at Skillstorm.
And I just want to say, Mackenzie, it absolutely does show me. We're only talking, if you're listening and if you do the math, it's only been 6 years since she's like, challenge accepted. I'll take Spec Plus and I'll raise you. Give me a job. So and
Mhm.
now you hear in 6 years that growth and that development. I mean, I almost want to come sign up for one of your classes, Valerie. So
You
uh,
should. They're
uh,
great.
I don't think I would make it through the tech portion, the evaluation portion. So, okay, so you're designing these programs
Mhm.
for clients, and that's what I really like about Skillstorm is that you don't put someone in training unless there's a job on the back end, and
So
right.
yeah, with some differences. So with TechForce by Design, we have clients lined up at the end and we build these curriculums custom for them. With
Mhm.
a program like Vet Tech, what we do is we bring in retired service members or transitioning service members, and we give them the skill sets they're looking to achieve. And then we work with our client services to try and link them with clients and get them what we call meaningful employment, which is
Mhm.
where they get gainfully employed with the skills they achieve during that Vet Tech program. And then
Right.
we additionally have these accelerated learning programs where those are more focused on getting industry certifications like CompTIA Security Plus.
Okay. And what I love, I believe you guys are preferred provider for vet tech as well, which means
Yeah,
if you don't get them a meaningful employment in the career field within 6 months, you pay the training funds back.
correct. Yeah, we
So,
became a vet tech preferred provider in 2021, and that's something that we are very passionate about is truly trying to make as much of an
mhm.
impact as possible.
And I think every company should be a vet tech preferred provider. Otherwise, you shouldn't be in vet tech. But that's just my saying. So I appreciate you all saying, "Hey, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it right the first way."
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so okay, so you run these vet tech programs. Can we talk about SkillBridge a little bit as well?
Yeah, so SkillBridge falls in line with our vet tech program. We're able to do it, like I said, for transitioning service members. We can supply that curriculum so that they can use that to validate why they're participating in the program. And then I believe it's just a certain time that they have to be getting out to participate in the certain timelines of the program.
So they would basically go into a cohort like you do with any other one, and
Yeah, they,
then
they participate in vet tech. And
yeah.
so vet tech, you don't need a degree to participate in
Oh,
that
wow.
program, right? So we bring these individuals in, and then of course there is a screening prior just to identify that they're on the right path to be a part of the program and they won't get left behind day one, right?
Kick me out.
But we start off pretty foundational and then we just build to be more and more advanced over those 16 weeks. So we try to provide as much support and as many resources as possible. But we also have these professionalism implementations, like we do mock interviews with them to prepare them for client interviews, quality audit presentations, all these things to really just give them as many skill sets, not just technically, but soft skill wise, to take with them to their career.
Great. Great. So for someone that's new to tech, right?
Mhm.
Someone like me that puts a little bit of work, not quite to MilSpouse level, like 6 months, a sec plus, but maybe I go take an online course or I just start to get familiar with it. And I come to your, I get make it through the evaluation and make it into a cohort.
Mhm.
What, like when you say fast paced, like how do you get someone from zero to hero in 12 weeks or 16 weeks so that they
Yeah.
show up day one at a client and are doing
You're ready
good,
to go.
right?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So it's been a tried and tested method where we are continuously improving our curriculums. But day to day, it's a 40-hour a week program.
Mhm.
They'll be in live lecture anywhere from like 5 to 6 hours a day. And then when they're not directly in live lecture, they're working on projects, they're working on examinations, maybe studying for a certification. We really try to tailor kind of every hour to the program to have specific goals, and then throughout that, we have milestones throughout the program to ensure that everyone's in alignment as well. So our candidates are getting constant feedback from us. They're constantly trying out these things. And it's not just that they know definitions. Definitions are great, but we focus on a hands-on approach. So we want to get them in the console. We want them to be building because that's the absolute best way to learn.
Awesome. And then, so they've got the lecture, they've got the hands-on, and I'm assuming there's evaluations along the way. Like, are there
Yeah.
tests, or is it just like you've made it through this milestone?
Yeah, so kind of a mixture. We do have exams. So every time we finish a content section, we'll have an exam that allows us to evaluate, their competency in that area, and maybe we need to dive deeper into something if everybody got an answer wrong, for instance. We have 3 different projects throughout the program. The first of which is solo, all the way up to an enterprise scale project where they work in a team. And then they have different presentations, mock interviews, and so on throughout. So they're consistently being evaluated so that they can get that feedback and we can make sure they're right for the program.
I love that you're doing the mock interviews throughout the program, not waiting till the
Mhm.
end,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
every
it kind
single
of
week.
gets them used to it because not many people start the first couple times and interview well, right? It takes
Mhm.
something, it takes work over time, especially if it's in the tech field where they're going to be asking technical questions about what you're learning. So you've got to be able
Yeah.
to articulate that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Are there ever any like practice exams? Like I've heard of tech companies giving you problems to solve, or does that happen? Like, do you guys prep them for that as well?
Yeah, so within the mock interviews, they get technical questions, but if they're preparing for something like an industry certification, we're definitely going to give them practice exams so they can be as prepared as possible. Of course, you can never fully emulate the real thing, but we try to get them as close as we can, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of that.
And do they get industry certifications while they're going through the program?
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, with the AWS DevOps Vet Tech program, they get 2 different ones. They start off with the Certified Cloud Practitioner, that's like a foundational level
Mhm.
certification, and then they proceed to the Solutions Architect Associate, so an associate level cert.
Mhm.
And we again try to prepare them as much as possible. But our cyber curriculums have their own certs, our Java curriculums have their own certs, and so on.
Okay. So I guess my question would be, so I love that, and I love the fact that vet tech doesn't cost the veteran anything, right?
Correct. Yeah.
They just need to have 1 month of their GI Bill left, I believe, and the VA handles it.
I believe so. Yeah, you may correct me on that, but yes, it's one where it's paid out of their VA benefits, so they don't pay anything directly to Skillstorm for participating.
Perfect. And then obviously SkillBridge doesn't have a cost.
Mhm.
And then TechForce by design,
They
you
get
guys
paid.
pay them, right?
Correct. Yes. So they are
So,
paid day one. They are hired. They'll have a W-2, benefits, all those things.
and that's the biggest thing that gets me is because I'm going to be honest, and some people are like, "Oh, Mike, you don't like our company model or whatever." And obviously, that's not Skillstorm we're talking about here, but my big thing is you can go through all the courses you want or the boot camps you want. If
Mhm.
there isn't a path to an entry level career at the end of that boot camp, you pretty much just wasted your time in a lot of cases. And so I have a lot of companies are like, oh, we've built these great, training programs for careers in tech. And I say, well, what companies are you working with? What kind of a pipeline? Are they guaranteed employment on the back end? And they're like, that's why we're calling you. We want you to find it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, why are you charging their benefits? Why are you teaching them something if you don't have a job at the end? You know, you can't have like that. To me, that's the mistake. And so what I love is that you can go through the training and then immediately go to a job where, you know, you could have 2 years of experience, continue growing your career, and you could double or triple your salary in 2, 3, 4 years. Am I right?
Yeah. So with TechForce by Design, right, we've got those clients lined up at the end for them. Again, that's that custom curriculum that we build, and we do everything we do to get them ready to be ready for that client day one at their deployment of their program. So it's a really great system. Like I said, they get paid and then they deploy off to the client at the end. And we truly just try to do everything we can. And with Vet Tech, you know, they don't have that client from day one, but then we do everything we can to line up career fairs, get them interviews, connect them with people that we know, etc.
You are self-incentivized to find them employment. Otherwise, you have to pay all that money back. So it's not your normal. I've talked to some others and I said, well, what's your boot camp doing for you? Not Skillstorm again. And they said, well, I meet with them every week for 15 minutes and tell them what I'm doing to find a job. And I just shake my head. I'm like, oh, man, you know, that's really rough. And so I like that you guys are really active on their behalf. Now, let's talk about military spouses, right? So seriously, aside from the mil spouse power, which I agree, like, you know, I think about half of my company are mil spouses and they're killing it. And Olivia, who's running this like a professional, is a military spouse. Military spouses can take advantage, right? Military spouses can take advantage of this as well, right? They can come get careers in technology through Skillstorm.
Yeah. So with our Accelerate program or accelerator program, we have cool benefits that they can qualify for as a mil spouse and participate in the certification upskilling. So there's absolutely, for anyone who's interested in upskilling their career and learning about technology, there's kind of a fit for everybody, whether that's TechForce by Design or a Vet Tech program or the individual certification courses. Absolutely, there's a path.
Yeah. And the cool benefits, I think, it's not my secret. There's a spouse program where up to a certain rank of your service member, they'll pay for training and certifications. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and that'd be one that our recruiting department could definitely elaborate on more. I don't know all of the specifics around that, but absolutely.
Awesome. I know there is one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But if they wanted to get into the TechForce by Design program, that's fully remote, right? What would a mil spouse have to do if they wanted to get into that and be successful?
So with TechForce by Design, some of the positions are remote, some of them are on site after the graduation. It just depends on the client that we work with. To be a part of a TechForce by Design, typically you're going to need a bachelor's degree. Thank you, Jasmine. Typically need a bachelor's degree and then to pass a tech screening coming into the program. And these qualifications can vary, but that's generally the standard. And that tech screen is going to be custom, not necessarily custom, but we have more of a programming interview for programs like Java. And then we have an IT interview for programs that would be like cloud, DevOps, cybersecurity, and so on.
So if they wanted to go in and they had a bachelor's degree, they would reach out to your recruiters and discuss what opportunities are coming up. If they're looking for something remote, they just have to wait till a cohort that's remote is available.
And the recruiters can elaborate, because it really just varies over time which client we're working with and what they need. We've definitely seen some be remote, some are in person. The training itself is remote for the 10 to 12 weeks or longer of a TechForce by Design. But it truly just depends. But they would contact a recruiter, they'd go through that tech screening, and the recruiters can answer any and all questions about upcoming programs for them.
Perfect. Now, if I was a military spouse and had the same amount of knowledge as I do right now, and I wanted to prep for a TechForce by Design. Like I knew this is what, like, I knew I wanted to go to Skillstorm. I wanted this 12-week TechForce by Design program. I wanted to be paid to do it remotely, and I wanted a remote job.
Yeah.
How would I prepare myself, right? Like, how, like, what kind of training could I do? Is there a cert I should pursue? Like, I think of nonprofits like Onward to Opportunity that'll give them the online training and pay for one cert. Like,
Mhm.
should everyone go prepare for their Sec Plus or A Plus or Net Plus? Like, what would you recommend if you're going to say, like, this is just to get you past the tech screening? Like, what would you
Mhm.
recommend somebody does?
Yeah, so to clarify, you don't have to have any sort of certification prereqs to be part of Tech Force by Design. But if you were going to study for, let's say, a cybersecurity Tech Force by Design, it would be great to maybe start studying something like a Security Plus because it's going to cover a lot of the foundations we'd ask about. So we're going to ask through different categories, things like hardware, networking, cybersecurity, maybe some Linux questions. We'll keep them rather foundational to
Mhm.
intermediate level, but if you were to study just the general, even a job requirements listing for a cybersecurity role, and you see those general skill sets, that's what
Mhm.
I would focus on. So as far as resources, I'm a big fan of textbooks, but there's YouTube videos, there's all sorts of additional resources you can find, and also just word of mouth from people around you as well. But like I said, we have our accelerator program, which can train you for industry certifications, and that can also be a great step before doing a Tech Force by Design.
So the accelerator program, is that only through MyCA or like?
No, so it's open to people who would like to participate. So we have the Cool, like I said.
Mhm.
Additionally, university students have taken part in it, or you can just purchase to be a part of it without
Mhm.
any of those other things attached to you. So those are open. And we train all sorts of certifications from CompTIA, Salesforce, AWS, and so on.
Okay, awesome. So prep for what you want, talk to the recruiters, find out what's coming, find
Absolutely.
the roles that you kind of like, and then study more along along those lines, and you can pass the tech screening, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
With
We've
with
got a pretty set standard of what we look for. And, as far as our trainers go, we are the ones that do the interviews for those particular programs. And so we really just look to identify people that are going to succeed in
Yeah.
that program.
Can I just say, John just came to the rescue there.
Yeah.
I totally forgot we discussed that, like a month or two ago. This is the coolest thing about, Skillstorm is if a soldier and airman takes a cool course, so you go through, is that through the accelerator program, right?
Hmm.
So you
Yes.
use cool to take Sec Plus or any of the certs, then they'll give the same cert and training to the spouse for free. Like, Olivia, can you pop that up again? That is cool. Literally, I guess.
Yep. That's
So,
still together.
how does, I know we're running up on the 30 minutes. If somebody wants to get involved, if they want to learn more, how do they reach out to a recruiter? How do they talk to someone? Like, could a mill spouse reach out to you if they wanted to hear more about your career? What are
Yeah,
your
they
thoughts on
absolutely
this?
can. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Most of the time, if it looks like you're interested in being a part of a program, I'll connect you with one of our recruiting team. We have an excellent recruiting team here at Skillstorm. You can also go to skillstorm.com. You can see all the information about contacting us there, but everyone on LinkedIn, I'm sure, would be happy to help as well.
Awesome. I love it. And we've had a few here, I'm guessing, from are any of the recruiters the ones that were commenting?
We've got Jasmine Kennedy. Yep. So a bunch of Skillstorm people in the chat. We got Mackenzie Beeman, John Tansel.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So they could reach out to any of them and they would be able to help as well.
Yeah, we have a fellow stormers policy here as part of our value, and we truly are just open doors and looking to help everybody accelerate opportunity. That is our purpose here at Skillstorm.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Valerie. I really appreciate your time and energy today. I do think we may have just learned this mill spouse power thing. I still can't get over, hey, challenge accepted, 6 months. I'll get my Sec Plus. Like,
It was not easy, but it is possible.
well,
Yeah.
and that's what I say about our mill spouse community. It doesn't have to be easy. I don't know any other population that operates better in gray space and says, like, I need to get from here to there, and I'm just going to make it happen.
Hmm.
So thank you for your continued service. We all know that the military would not run without our spouses. And thank you for helping shape our service members, military spouses, and veterans, for a career in tech.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here and truly I love Skillstorm's culture and value and purpose. So I'm here for anybody I can help.
Awesome. And before we go, Olivia, I just want to say, can we talk about that office background?
It's my old office. I'm
I-
in the process of moving, so I put a picture of the old one to remember it.
That is one of the coolest things I have seen, is taking a photo of your old office. And I bet you it went weeks before people noticed that.
Well, I mean, I'm like in front of the desk, so they probably they probably noticed, but yeah.
It's still pretty cool. So thank you for being creative as well. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.